All right, guys, it's Jalan with the Paradox Gaming Network, and today we're going to have a little chat. We're going to talk about the Creative Director's letter. We're going to do a letter breakdown, going to do a little analysis. I'm hoping at the end of this that I'll be able to answer the question, where are we at now? Now to start, how are we going to do this? I'm going to be grading the letter. I'm going to be tearing it apart. It's going to be on subjective criteria based across like business management, marketing, community relations, expectation management. Certainly you may not agree with all of my dings, everything that I ding them for. I'm working on the assumption that this letter was meant to re-inspire confidence in Intrepid Studios, in the MMORPG, in Apocalypse, in Steven, in his team, in his dream, in his vision, in his destination. And so we've had 31 days. This letter's been in production, in being in writing. So we better deliver a home run with this letter. Now I know some of you just looked down and you said, Jay, this video is long. Give me the meat. Give me 2 minutes for those of you that like it up front and we can get out. Too long, just the facts. Alpha 1 is delayed, no date. We're talking a delay in months, not in years. Battle Royale, no dates. Castle Siege, no dates. Everything webpage related, no dates. Is the MMORPG delayed? Wasn't specifically stated, but I'm going to say probably. The reason why it's in green is that is my opinion. Why do I think it's probably delayed? Because how do you delay Alpha 1 by months and then still make before 2020? Before those of you that want to get out of here depart, I'm going to leave you with a couple of lingering questions. Number one, why not announce the delay to the MMORPG directly? I mean, the previous statement is we're still operating under a before 2020 for launch, and you didn't actually undo this statement. What were you waiting for? On the 10th of February, you said you were going to talk about this in the director's letter, which you plan to have done within the next couple of weeks, but I'm waiting on definitive answers first. Off we go to find anything that looks definitive. So here we go. I'm going to talk about the pedigree information. Delivered on time. Objective? Yes, it was delivered on time. I had it in my hands at 18:30 Central Standard Time, which means 16:30 Pacific. Puts it inside of a standard 0900 to 1700 day, which is considered way early for Intrepid. They usually drop stuff at like 1800 to 2000 their time. So we get the top of the letter. Creative Director's letter. Looks pretty good. Wait a minute. It wasn't out at 0800. This also leads me to all of your blog entries are at 0800. Is it a minor thing? Yes. Is it a petty thing? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to concede it's a petty thing. But it's factually incorrect. And if you're going to talk about your new webpage design team throughout the letter, then I feel the need to point out that your webpage design team is very inaccurate. So we start the letter off with Intrepid continues to grow. We had a great first part of the new year when it comes to hiring. This is a great lead to the letter. It's something positive, and you throw the link on here. Now, I got to ding you. Putting the link out there is great, but when originally I ding you because when the letter came out and I clicked over, the staff page wasn't updated. I don't know if they were pushing the final updates. I don't know if people got the blog a little bit early, but it's attention to detail. So I got to ding them on quality as well. Let's take a look real quick. So this is what you get when you get the staff page, and I'm not really impressed. I'm not impressed with the quality. I'm not impressed with the attention to detail. What do I mean? Let me throw in some grid lines, and this looks horrible. This looks visually unappealing. If for some reason you didn't have image files sized correctly, then at least group them correctly. There's no logical order. Some old photos are mixed in with some new photos. The staff isn't aligned properly, so I don't know what's going on with this, but you know, it's bad web design. So does bad web design mean bad game design? No, absolutely not. Different teams, different skill sets. The average person won't see it this way. This is a representation of your company. It was the first link in your letter, and it looks bad. Let's get back to that first section. This is a very strong lead. From a journalism point of view, from a marketing point of view, this is very strong. But they really need to learn to use new hires as a much bigger public relations boost because they're easy points. And what do I mean by that? Just right here, forgive me, these are not my images. These are the images I had to rip. They got 2 QA guys. I could turn these 2 guys being hired into a tweet, into a blog, into a news article. And just so you guys can see how I could do that real quick. Hey, Glorious Ashes community, wanted to drop you a line to let you know that the quality assurance department has been stood up over here at the studio. I'd like to introduce you to Sean and Ryan. Sean comes to us from where with what experience? Ryan comes to us from where with what experience? As you guys may or may not have seen, any of the bug reports you put in should have been answered by now, because they have been logged, cataloged, tracked, and they are now with our developers trying to make sure that all those things get rectified. Boom. That is money in the bank right there. I just wrote you a story. I just gave you something to fill in the lull. It's something your community wants to jump on. That's going to be a recurring trend. Let's get into the next paragraph. This is a great decision. As you may know, our goal was to reach 80 to 100 developers at the San Diego studio. We missed that hiring goal, and doubling our efforts. Great. That you missed the goal. You missed the goal. But you stepped up and admitted it in a public letter, which is great because that's what we want you to do. Hey, X didn't happen. You already said it on the Discord. One thing we have missed is our hiring goals. That could be a result of my being too picky. That's a reason if you had said this in November or December. Anything before an event, a deadline, is a reason. Anything after is an excuse. You could have turned this into a news story as well. Fill in those gaps. Hey guys, we are not going to meet the developer goal in the San Diego studio by X date. I've realized I'm probably being too picky. And although I want to bring in only the best, from this point forward, I'm going to self-critique, analyze I've been too picky, and ratchet that down a little bit so that we can get the staff robust and move forward. Again, that's another news story. Here's more news. Construction is underway at our new studio location with over... Hold up a second. This is a ding right here. This is news, but it's late. Why is it late? Because your first plan was to be in by November or December. Then it was 28 February. Now it's a new location, which nobody should blame Intrepid for if, of course, you communicated it earlier, plus why. What happened? What were those reasons? What were the reasons outside of your control? If they're outside of your control, you should be able to talk to them. You have a community that wants to know stuff. Easy news is easy points. Now, something like this with the construction, I really have to hit you hard with it because it's starting to be indicative of your project management. Now, for those of you that beat the drum over and over and over again about game development is fluid, you can't hold game developers to timelines, game development is so star-spangled impossible that deadlines don't mean anything, fine, I will concede that point to you. What I won't give you is construction. Construction is very linear. Construction is very predictable because contractors, they want to get to their next project. You can hold construction people to a much more definite date of delivery. The worst part here is there's no ETA. So, you know, you don't even have an ETA on your construction project, which should be in the contract. But what do I know? So we're going to get into the state of the game now. This is a bold statement to lead with. The state of Ashes is strong. I'm like excited, the hair on the back of my neck. I get into it. We have been hard at work developing the systems and world that cannot wait to play with you. We've learned a lot from our Ashes of Creation Apocalypse testing. A lot of what pertains needs to be changed, and we've been focusing on those issues. We learned a lot. What did you learn? You didn't reel me in here. You failed. You failed to reel me in. Worse than that, you raised my level of skepticism, which means I've put the jaded lenses on. You dropped the ball here. Ashes of Creation, the MMORPG. You can read this on your own time. There's no meat here. There is nothing to sink your teeth into. There's nothing. What systems are done? What percentage of what systems are done? What percentage of what art systems are done? What positive progress have you made? The Economist has delivered this. I had a chance to listen to the first soundtrack pass by Bear McCrary. Give me something. Show me that something on the production timelines sheet is getting checked off. The only thing we get here is we know that the sentiment from the community is not to rush something or release something that doesn't meet all of your expectations. Ding, 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 ding. Groundwork for the delay. Okay, guys, we're going to jump into Ashes of Creation Apocalypse now, and I want to bring, attention to this testing ground piece. This is a break from the previous standalone viable product quote. You needed to dig in here and clean up that confusion. I called this out in a video on February 16th with a lot of sound bites from Steven, but I was hoping that this section would have been more to that first. What was the original goal of Ashes of Creation Apocalypse? Steven had some good sound bites. You can check those out in that video up there in the corner. The problem is that even me as a content creator, someone who follows Ashes, I'm not 100% convinced they didn't try to make the Battle Royale as a profitable game and it failed. 85-90% sure, but when I saw the prices of those reskins, and I posed that question to Steven while he was on my stream, I never got an answer back about whoa man, let's talk about this pricing. It's almost like we're doing some after the fact revisionist history writing. So I'm not 100% convinced. And if I'm not convinced, how can I convince you guys of that? I can't be a shill. I can't be disingenuous. If I'm not 100% convinced, you'll notice on my YouTube comments, a lot of times I say, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say on this one. I also want to dig in here to this whole paragraph. This paragraph is weak. You had successes. You need to brag about the successes. Everybody hates Apocalypse anyways. Its common flavor is hated, especially, well, the Battle Royale part. The hitboxes, the prone hitboxes, those were one of them. You had a huge success in fixing something. You had 87,000 logins for testing. That's another strong statement from the period. But even more, we get into this bad starting paragraph and we get into an even worse paragraph. You leave me hanging here, all right? You say that during the testing of Alpha 1 Phase 1, it became quite unclear for those not following the project to understand that the Battle Royale was an atmosphere designed to test the aforementioned systems and services. All right, first of all, Alpha 1 Phase 1 was incorrect usage of the nomenclature. That's really what I thought. That's why I thought you changed it, and I thought you'd agree with me about why you changed it, because you can't call a Battle Royale alpha testing of an MMORPG. It's tech testing. It's specific tech testing. Then we get to the end, and it says, this, of course, had a secondary effect that caused concern about the direction of the project being focused on creating a Battle Royale. Well, what about that secondary effect? Nothing to say about it? This paragraph is bad because you needed to close it up with, this is just a reaffirmation. This is to remind people that the MMORPG is the flagship product of Intrepid Studios, and nothing will ever change that. The Battle Royale and all of Apocalypse will never interfere with the MMORPG development. It simply exists. Its success is measured by what does it do to support the MMORPG. And then this statement, you guys know that I am not politically correct, but oof, wasn't clear enough for those less informed about the project. That's a bitter pill for people to swallow. You guys know that I'm not all about political correctness, but you can't be politically incorrect towards your community. Not everyone's going to hang out on the Discord every minute of every day. And let's be honest, a lot of what you said about Alpha 1, Phase 1, Battle Royale, monetization, it's only going to stay. You crossed over your own press releases, statements about 7 times in 6 weeks. So I don't think there's very many people that it was clear enough for, even people in the community. Let's talk about this one right here. Testing of Apocalypse successfully revealed the need for some architectural refactoring that we're glad we were able to spot early on. Why the hell did you not lead the Apocalypse section with this statement? This is a success and a giant one. Celebrate it. But deja vu, and then this is what took me a long time to put together these slides, looks vaguely familiar to this statement on Discord. Almost verbatim. Almost verbatim. And then I came back to this statement and started comparing lines. And the creative director's letter, I'm not sure what took 31 days, if the letter is a copy pasta of stuff you said in the middle of February. So that gave me some concern. And remember we talked about, Steven said he was waiting for definitive stuff. What was the definitive stuff? Now, this is my rewrite, and this is what I think they needed to say in this section. While Ashes of Creation Apocalypse may have struggled greatly in its early months, it has without a doubt been instrumental in the future success of Ashes of Creation, the MMORPG. While many wanted testing to wait for Alpha 1, we needed a way to begin gathering data from skill usage, reticle accuracies, camera point of view, battlefield populations, hit scan, and project design. That should say projectile design, my bad. Active dodge, evasion, and much more in a testing ground. And we wanted to gather that data before all the MMORPG systems were ready to be showcased. While Battle Royale game modes may not have been enjoyed by everyone in the community, the data gathered has been utilized to make significant improvements in all areas we were testing. Additionally, APOC Battle Royale was instrumental in identifying flaws in our server architecture. Deployment of the Battle Royale mode has allowed us to fix these errors far earlier in production than we would have if we had to wait to discover them when the MMORPG Alpha 1 went online. This is a huge win. This is a huge damn win, and it wasn't showcased. I know people hate APOC. People, every Monday morning quarterback has a better way to do all the testing that Intrepid wanted to do rather than APOC. But I don't have a solution to give them to say you should have done this. Battle Royale does what they wanted to do. I didn't see this statement from Steven before I did that rewrite, and even he says it. Thank goodness that APOC testing was as early as it was. Absolutely. You needed to celebrate this more. Let's talk about website, forum, customer service, and e-commerce. This section is a giant fail, okay? This section is a giant fail. There's no ETA on anything, and that's important to note. There's no ETAs on anything coming up. It should not take a competent web team this long to fix stuff. And I have to reference you back to the poor web design earlier. These are simple things. These are very, very simple things. Now, the database mistake, I'm going to put that off to the side. The database mistake, corrupted databases are their own big hassle. But the rest of it, come on now. I am going to point out here, this is good news. They're getting rid of Xsolla, and they're going to go with Stripe and PayPal. Xsolla is horrible. They were screwing up conversions. There were hidden fees. European Union players, they were paying like $75 more for stuff. And if your community hates somebody, it's probably the right way to go. So now we get to the future. What's the future? Is the meat here? Here is the meat, right? You're talking about a current roadmap that reflects the project's development and what goes on behind the scenes. All right, I'm kind of hopeful here if it comes to realization. Let's talk about Ashes of Creation, the MMORPG with the future. Now we're talking the future. This is horrible. This was the coward's way out. Our goal of reaching Alpha 1 in Q2 of 2019 for the MMORPG relied heavily. Stop. I said several times, if you have to delay, then you need to man up. This is passive in every sense. And this line sets up the foreshadowed delay announcement. We already talked about earlier the reaching out to the community. You guys don't want a bad product pushed. Now we're going to talk about our goal, and I knew the delay was coming. Here's a big long paragraph that you can read, but in 300, it took 303 words to say Alpha 1 is delayed. Sorry. This discounts previous statements about a production schedule. It says, I know you want a new date and we'd love to give you a new date now, but we don't want to throw one out there and have to take it back. But you previously talked about using production schedules, which should have an alpha date on it. Either you are working from today, the next task takes 10 days, so it's today plus 10 or X plus 10. You can't do this event over here because it's a consecutive event. So that's 15. So 10, date 15. Or you're working backwards. Our intention is to hit 30 September because this event needs this many days. This event needs this many days. And you back it up. I've worked with production schedules most of my officer career. If you say you don't have a date, then that's a huge warning sign for me. And it's also it's cause for grave concern. Also means launch is not before 2020. If you don't have a date for Alpha 1 now, you don't have any of the other dates lined up. You don't have an Alpha 2 date. You don't have a Beta 1 date. You don't have a Beta 2 date. So, yeah, no. We can say this is not a delay in terms of years, but in terms of months. Well, okay. But how do you know that? How do you know that? You don't have a date to give us. I'm not sold you have a production schedule. So if you can't tell us that the delay is only in months, are you playing a word game? Is it 11 months? Is it 23 months? Because 23 months would still be months, but it wouldn't be years. It would only be a year. I don't want to play word games with you. You need to shore this up. I almost want to call this next section disingenuous. One of the great things about our project is the ability. Yeah, that's cool. You gave bad news without owning it. Now you want to tell me what's good about it. I'll give you points for sentiment here, but you needed the mea culpa. You have slammed other companies. You've talked about other companies' development timelines. You just needed to own the fuck up. You can't deliver when you said you can deliver. If you were more genuine about it, you know, hey, this is the problem with the double-edged sword of transparency. We laid out all those things based on the original architecture working. Since the original architecture doesn't work, we're looking at a delay of no less than 6 months. But don't hold us to 6 months because it's a no less than 6 months minimum. Okay, well then that's pretty genuine. That's being transparent. Get into the things that they talked about. This is a lot of good to know stuff, but honestly, at this point in the letter with how you've presented stuff, you could have just as easily said, during these next few months, we're going to continue building an MMORPG. All right? And then I didn't catch it the first time, the second bullet there, new launcher preparation. I didn't catch it personally until the next section. We get to Ashes of Creation, Apocalypse, Testing Ground. I'm really tired of seeing Testing Ground. It's starting to seem disingenuous to me because of those previous standalone product quotes. You didn't tackle that earlier where I said you needed to tackle it. It's standing out to me like another warning flag. What I am going to call you out here for is this sentence right here. Testing and development on Castle Sieges and Horde mode took a back seat to all the fixes and refactoring that was necessary to address some of the data we saw from early Battle Royale testing. Great, as it should have. But where was the transparency? You slowed or stopped development on Siege and Horde mode, and you made that at some point. But you teased Castle Sieges in January, you know, there were things going on, but you never stopped to say that to anyone. And there's also no ETA on anything. There's no ETA on when we're going to get Battle Royale back. There's no ETA on when we're going to get Castle Sieges for Alpha 1 testers. I don't care about Horde mode because it's crawl, walk, run. But expectation management becomes really, really easy when you don't give any deadlines. Now, I don't have a problem with them giving no deadlines. However, then they need to step up to the plate and say, look, guys, the experiment in transparent development failed. We learned now why. I mean, they talk about it in the letter, but we learned now why other companies don't do it. We're going to stop doing it. We tried to do it. We're going to be as transparent as possible. But I really don't want to hear about a date like, hey, Battle Royale is going to be back in April 15th. No, I just want you to show up on April 14th and be like, hey, guys, tomorrow, Battle Royale is ready to go. I'm going to say again, this is good stuff to know. And I'm going to be a little cynical. You know, I think at this point, the flow of the letter, this letter needed to be quality checked a few more times because I'm going to be a little cynical at this point. You've given bad news. There's no real apology. And I sure am glad that you're going to do QA testing and bug fixing. I mean, really? I mean, come on now. You had an opportunity to deflect some of that shade that I just threw. Why do you need a new launcher? Why are we on launcher number 3? If you had done a deep dive into the new launcher, you maybe wouldn't have had to put a couple of bullets because 3 bullets would have looked weak. Maybe you didn't need to put bullets there. Maybe you could have just talked about a key component of this is the development of the new launcher. We need to develop a new launcher because X. We found during testing Y. You know, I think that would have gone a lot further. We get into website, forums, customer service, and e-commerce. All right. Earlier, I said the entire section was trash. There were no ETAs, but we brought a new web team on board. It took some time to plan out their production schedule, but now they are caught up to speed. All right, let's talk about production schedules. We talked about them in construction. Now we're going to talk about them in web page design. Pro web page people should be able to stick to their development with everything but the database. Again, I'm going to give you the database as a gimme. It took a time to plan out the production schedule. So you have a schedule, but not one mention of one date in this entire section. Again, it's easy to be on time for everything if you don't provide any deadlines. You come in here. The new hires, yeah, that's filler. You had a new hire section up at the top. Yeah, it's kind of cool that you're talking about this, but I think it's meant to try to do some deflection or look at the good things we're doing, which obviously they want to do, but you maybe want to have split customer service out then and talk about that earlier, because then it would have been a good thing. Like, hey, we've acknowledged that you guys don't like the wait and ticket time. What we're doing is this. Just like I talked about with the QA guys, that was huge news standing up the QA department. The referral system, I would not have mentioned this. I wouldn't have mentioned it at all. I wouldn't talk about, the referral system is the elephant in the room. Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about the referral system till it's fixed, because it's a sore spot. The forums, you should have elaborated on them being down for so long and why they're down. You kind of throw it on there in one line, waiting on that single sign-on solution. You should have put that in the meat of the paragraph a little bit more and explain to people, hey, guys, we don't want to launch forums that don't have a single sign-on solution, because then we're going to be right back where we started with having 2 different logons. And then we're not going to necessarily be able to undo that, or you're going to have this other login that's just out there and we're going to have a bunch of logins in a database, blah, blah, blah. Just tell people, guys, we know you want forums, but we're waiting on the single sign-on solution. The web development team thinks that they can have this done no later than 30 May. Okay. Now you've given a realistic expectation. It's out there. It's more than 2 months down the road, and you should be able to hit that. Events. PAX East 2019. Again, a little deja vu, a little copy pasta. I'm beginning to think that the whole director's letter was just nothing but somebody doing in Discord from Steven and then linking it along. I think that you need to do more organic rewrite. And this is from a background in a little bit of journalism, a little bit of media. This looks kind of bad. I do like that he said they're developing, they're going to GDC. So that's great. Actually, I don't want to say it's good. That's great, because if anybody leaks that Intrepid Studios at GDC, then people don't blow up with, well, you couldn't go to PAX, but you went to GDC. So good on you for being upfront and honest. Content roadmap. Desperately trying to close on a positive note. It's split in the letter like everything else is. You've already talked about a content roadmap, so the 2 sections should have been together, because there's not a lot of meat here. But I also want to point out a huge one. Art, you already do this. Nodes focused. If it's not Nodes 3, it's going to be an uproar. Honestly, stop. Nodes 3 is memeably late right now, okay? It's memeably late. Put something out for Nodes 3. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It just has to be good enough to push out. In-depth articles, that's great, but you've promised this before, so until they're here, we were promised class blogs about a year ago, so until they're out, whatever. Let's talk about the live stream real quick to close this up. This is a horrible live stream time. The majority of your NA audience is at work or school. Yes, I know that you gotta rotate between. So rotate between time zones. If you want to hit the EU audience, the Oceanic audience, you need to rotate it. The best solution is just don't ever do giveaways on Twitch and nobody will complain. Yeah, it'll suck. If you're going to do 11 o'clock, then don't do giveaways on stream. I know giveaways is what gets people in the door, but you're really creating an atmosphere where you're going to alienate one time zone of your people. This last piece that Steven wrote, guys, I'm going to be honest, Steven's a great guy. Like I said, if I was ever in San Diego and the game was launched, I would call the studio and be like, hey, dude, I'd love to do a sit down, talk about you as a person for an article piece. Not necessarily like, I wouldn't try to pull information out of the game development. That's why I'd say after the game is launched, I want to do like a feature piece on the guy. But most of this should have been in the opening paragraph. It's sincere and genuine, but at this point in the letter, people just don't care. You should have closed with, you'll be doing one each quarter, and then remind people for the Twitch reminder on the 8th. So where are we at? Where do we go from here? You didn't own it. You didn't apologize for it. There's a delay. Yeah, great. You justify it, but you didn't apologize for it. You don't own it. There are no dates in this letter. They didn't delay the MMORPG officially, but it's all but certainly delayed. The writing's on the wall. Or your Alpha 2, your Beta 1, and your Beta 2 are all going to disappoint. But at this point, I think it's naive to think that the MMORPG isn't delayed. The only thing that's changed now, what we really can say where we're at, We know Alpha 1 is delayed by months. We don't have any expectations now. So expectation management is simple. The community shouldn't have any. It does clean the slate. It does zero out the clock. All previous statements now are kind of null and void, except they dropped the ball. They didn't wipe the before 2020 quote off the clock. So that's still there, which means later on down the road, it's going to blow up in their face again. Anyway, guys, this video is long, so you guys know all this stuff. You know me. You know how to get in touch with me. Thanks to my sponsors. You guys are the best. There's a giveaway below. Anyways, I'm going to cut this, get it in post-production, and try to get it out while it's still the 7th my time. Take care.
Hey, where are you going? You're not done yet. See these videos? There's videos up here to watch. You got to go over here. Hit the chibi. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the webpage. And I'll see you guys on Twitch.